Here we are, hitting up events, drinking our way through Chicago beer, and trying not to miss a thing.
Yeah, because, the cork popped out, boom, it flies like fucking 10 feet. We're like, yeah, let's do it.
All you have to do is add some fruit, stir it up, and ride that milk-shaped wave.
Whenever I see him, I gotta take a photo with the most decorated brewer in Chicago, Jonathan Cutler.
It'll be like the stuff you hear. You ever go to, every time you go to Floyd's, all the music sounds like this. Raw, raw, raw.
Sometimes you want a small beer, but really, you want a big beer.
You gotta take in all those big aromatic hops.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Waiting in line for a bottle release?
You should have never been a fad. The Black IPA is delicious.
Hey, and welcome to Chicago Beer Pass. I'm Brad Chmielewski.
Brad, what's up, man? I'm Nik White.
We have a smorgasbord
Smattering.
of beers from Black Lung Brewing.
Yeah, man. Round Lake Beach, Illinois. Hello. Can't confuse them because there's Round Lake Beach, and there's a third one.
There's a beach round.
There's like three of them.
Roundy Beach. Roundabout Beach. But yeah, we have a few things. One of these we've had before, and I know I have a friend, and she really likes this coffee beer from them. Your What Hurts, it's called, with coffee. And
Like your what hurts?
Your What Hurts, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, she loves this beer.
Nice. I'm a big fan. I've said it before. I'm a big fan of Poncho versus Lefty. Oh yeah, the Mexican lager. That's my jam. We went up there. We recorded. Former guest on the show.
Right.
Beer Pass alumni up there. Yeah, fun little spot. And right, it's your classic strip mall brewery. They got some space to party outside. But then they also really embraced live music. I think live music is at the center of a lot of what they do up there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have a really nice wooden bar that kind of ties the whole room together. So it's actually a pretty chill spot.
Mm-hmm. The first beer we opened up from this was one from the Sode Hop.
So hopped.
It's a collaboration, and I saw Cold IPA, and I was like, oh, we're just getting into things. It's a little late. I just kind of want something refreshing and crisp.
Yeah.
And this didn't deliver that to me.
It's got the hops there, right? It's got big floral hops. It's got the light body like you want. So it's almost there. But then it has a very noticeable linger of, I think it's bitterness. Brad thinks it's more of like a peach, kind of milky, creamy peach thing.
Yeah, there's like this peach flavor that gets me. And I don't know if it's this Nectaron hop that's in here, which that sounds like a peach thing, Nectaron.
Yeah.
Don't put that. I want the IPA as an IPA, and I want a cold IPA as like a crisp, bitter, crushable. I don't want juice.
That's fair. I'm actually in agreement with that, especially if you're going with the whole West Coast IPA meets Pilsner vibe, right? Like West Coast IPAs aren't really trying to be fruity. They're trying to be kind of classic, grassy, piney, hoppies.
Because we talked about before, cold IPA is a IPA fermented at a lower temperature, typically with lager yeast. So I don't know if it's at lager temperatures or just not at ale temperatures.
Yeah. A lucid fusion, woven dreams is what this one's called. So they brewed this at So Hop. It's a collab between the two. Yeah, this is 6%. So
I'm blaming that on Soda Hop.
Nectaron, Strata, Cascade, and Citra. So hopped.
So instead of that, I'm going to open up this amber lager, which has this amber Oktoberfest zombie.
Yeah,
right?
I told my buddy Dan that this is the same character on their Oktoberfest.
Oh,
and
okay.
he's like, yeah, that's their Oktoberfest.
Oh, this is their Oktoberfest.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh, we're back to Oktoberfest?
We had the most Oktoberist fucking Oktoberfest run ever.
No,
Brad.
that's pretty good. I feel like...
Lagers, I think, is their sweet spot then, if you like that. Let me get in there.
Yeah, but this cold IPA should be it's basically a lager.
It's almost where you want to be, with the exception of the lingering fruity hop.
Yeah, take out that hop, and I think it's there.
It's most of the way there, though.
Yeah.
Most of the way.
I want it without that hop, and I think I'd like it.
I agree.
But that's me. Anyway, we're yeah, we got these from Black Lung, and we're gonna talk about like, I guess their expansion and also other breweries closing. So, first up, you know more about this expansion.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my buddy Dan who lives in Round Lake Beach, or is it Round Lake Heights? I forget. Or is it Round Lake? Yeah, Chicago Beer Geeks Dan. He picked these up. They were gonna ship them, but we were like, we see each other once a week anyway, so I picked them up. Yeah, so they were chatting it up, and I think they're expanding to the Channel Lakes, which I've never been to, but sounds like a damn good time from a distance, man.
Okay.
Fucking all these towns that are connected by this series of lakes. When you look on the map, this is an absurd amount of acres where these lakes reside.
Really?
Like
Okay.
ridiculous. It just looks, it's interesting.
Getting a lake house?
I mean, I think I might just want to have a friend with a lake house at this
okay.
point, And because if they got a lake house, they probably got a boat. So I just want.
Right. I don't think you get a lake house and you don't have a boat. Right?
Exactly,
It's sort
yeah.
of, I think they go together.
So they're expanding to Fox Lake, and this is going to be in the spring. And this used to be a bar with 2 boat docks called I think Blueberry Hill. Okay. Yeah. So I think the guys who own Blueberry Hill were looking for a tenant. And then I think they worked out an agreement where they're going to revamp the place and make it friendly for Black Lung to move in.
That's exciting for them and also like a little surprising because he like built that out himself, the current brewery.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then he still has, when we talked to him, he had a full-time job still.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you're gonna have 2 breweries, sort of, and
Right, well,
like,
one
are you
satellite
quitting
tap
this-
room.
Are you quitting this other job?
Yeah. So, the second one's going to be like a second tap room, so like a satellite thing, but basically 2 locations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said. I forget what he did, but I think he worked for one of the cities, one of the local,
Elevator repair?
one of the local municipalities. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But it
that's
took them a
interesting.
while to build out the current spot. But I guess they're going into the Hickory Farms. What was it? Hillberry.
No, Blueberry Hickory Farms. Where do I know that name from? No, Hickory Hills. I used to, for one summer, I lived in Hickory Hills with my grandma. Hickory Hills is the place I was thinking of. But, but he's going into the second spot. I mean, so I go big or go home, I guess, right? And I feel like this is, it's a seasonal play, right? I would assume it's kind of like, if, you know how, like the Chicago River has all those kind of restaurants and bars.
Yeah.
And, you're going to crush it. In fact, like, I don't know, I'm not comparing Channel Lakes to the Chicago Riverfront because I've never been to Channel Lakes. But you remember, what was the cider bar called by Half Acre?
Oh, Northman.
They said, we're going to make so much money on the river at Northman. We're going to make so much money on the river that we'll just have our business there 4 months a year. And we'll close our
Yeah. And we'll
other
just
location.
do that. It's sort of like having I've heard this for people who have like, I don't know, haunted houses or things like that. You just
Yeah.
make all your money
Right.
in like a 3-week period and you're good.
And there's going to backpack through Spain the rest of the year.
Right.
I mean, so I guess the opportunity's there to really get after it in
In the summer,
in
but
both
they
seasons.
probably will keep it open for the rest of the year too. There's no reason to.
Yeah.
So spring of 2023.
Yeah, you'll see Black Lung too.
Okay.
Black Lung Satellite Tap Room in Fox Lake.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been that far north yet. Well, I've been to now I forgot the name of the place. The hockey bar. Oh, Light the Lamp. I've been to Light the Lamp. That's a brewery in Grays Lake. And I went to that super far brewery up in Waukegan. But I'm saying I haven't had just like a ditch day, hang out on the Channel Lakes and get after it. I haven't done that yet.
Maybe it's time. Didn't we go to like Moore? We did the little Moore stop around this time last year.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm down for the hang. So it'd be a good reason to go up and, say, hey,
Pick a day and go.
and just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. So they're expanding.
Yeah.
We're gonna crack open maybe something else, or we'll just sip on this amber lager.
It's up to you, man. I think we got 4 different ones here.
Yeah. Well, there's a seltzer,
Okay.
which I'm intrigued and scared of at the same time.
Because you've had some horror stories with seltzers, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is a creamsicle seltzer, and it's spelled fizzy with a PH. So I don't know how I feel about this. Like I have mixed emotions.
Yeah.
Like I want to try it, but then I'm worried.
Yeah, depends on what kind of mood you're in.
Right. Like, is it going to be a milkshake? Is it a milkshake seltzer, or is it just a regular? Is it a clear
Yeah.
seltzer
Does
that
it,
tastes like creamsicle?
does it have a bunch of like fruit in it? Right.
There's only one way to find out. You open it up.
Yeah, that's true.
But okay.
All right.
But they're expanding, and then there was an article in the Trib today talking about like the oversaturation of breweries, and it talked about like go to your places kind of before they're closed because it looks like stuff's closing. We had Urban Renewal close, and
Yeah.
then we had Empirical close,
Yeah.
and now Tribes is closing.
Well, it's just Smiley Brothers closed.
And Smiley Brothers.
Well, they had another location, but yeah.
Right.
Oh, so Tribes Ale House is closing, huh?
That's what it said that they. I think the quote said, or the things that they, since the pandemic, they weren't able to like get back to their numbers, and they're just like, we want out.
Man, that's rough. Man, you're supposed to turn the pandemic into a bandemic, Brad. Man, there were two Tribes. There was the original one in Mokina, which was kind of really one of the best bars you've ever been to, right? Just a really proper bar, no matter where it was. If it was in the city, it'd be a really good bar.
Yeah.
And then they expanded to this bigger space and started the brewery in Tinley. So Tinley and Mokina are kind of border each other. They're
Okay.
bordering suburbs. So I wonder which one's closing.
Oh,
But-
and then I guess the article, speaking of Tinley, didn't even mention 350.
oh yeah,
I think
350's
people
out.
forget that was also one that closed.
Man, yeah, I wonder what kind of a following they had, right? Because it kind of feels like a good riddance thing with 350. Because then, right? Because the former guys who worked at 350 went back and bought the space,
Right.
right? So, yeah, cheers to Flipside Brewery, and that's the current tenant in that building.
But then it also mentioned, like, it didn't mention Black Lung, but it mentioned the expansion of Hop Butcher buying 2 places, Old Irving going into the old Finch place. Oh, yeah, it mentioned
And
Finch
Finch closed,
closing.
yeah.
So it was kind of like, are things oversaturated? And kind of what's happening in the market? And we've kind of talked recently about places we think could possibly close
Yeah.
next, or who's on the chopping block. What do we see, or what are we feeling?
Yeah, I think well with Smiley Brothers in general, right? Like they were, they had the Purple Line, which is their hibiscus ale that took a medal in JBF a couple times, and they're based in Evanston. Was in a family friendly space. It kind of looks like a lodge basically in Evanston.
Yeah.
And then they brought the second location in Lakeview, and we always notoriously do we discuss how they had 4 storefronts. It's a massive space. Probably took them a ton of money to revamp, and then probably cost a lot of money to rent out unless they bought the joint.
And didn't put a sign up, right?
Right. I mean, and then you're in a section of town. What was over that way? Remember Hot Cat on
Yeah.
Clark with like 100
And that
drafts?
failed.
Right. So it's like this is an area that even though sure it's dense, right? It's not too far from Wrigley. It's a very highly populated area. That doesn't mean success for beer centric things over there.
Right.
And, it doesn't equal that. So
And then Empirical, they closed because they just weren't paying their bills.
it's not funny. It's just yeah. Is that what's going on there?
That's sort of what people kind of said.
It's rough out here. Yeah, I
And
think.
then 350, they had their issues.
What was Urban Renewal's deal?
Renewal? I think he said they basically. So he had a couple quotes in there in this article. One was I'll get to in a second, but the first one was basically, we opened this tap room too late, and we were making basically a lot of money in the tap room, but our place was too big, and there was draft sales and distribution.
This is the old Metropolitan space,
Right.
Right.
So
And then they expanded because Metropolitan and Koval shared a wall, so they moved into both, right?
I think he talked about it and then didn't, but
So his brewery was in the old Metro space, and then their tap room was in the Koval space, right? I remember that because his tap room. We interviewed him, and his tap room wasn't
there
wasn't
yet.
in that space.
okay. Yeah, unsure on what the build out was, but it was kind of like we should open the tap room almost right away, which I think a lot of people know. You kind of the money's from the tap room because
Yeah.
there's no. You can sell your beer straight away. Like you can keg it up and put it on tap.
Yeah, you don't have to pay a percentage to this distro.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he had another quote in there that was a bit odd. he mentioned that if he was to do it again, he'd go to the suburbs and find a smaller place, because he said he goes to the suburbs and these places are packed and some of them are making just so-so beer. And he's basically saying, I could kill it in the suburbs with my so-so beer. That's sort of what it like kind of read as.
That's a hot take there, Mr. Urban Brew Labs, Urban
James,
Renewal.
right?
Yeah. That's funny because, well, you and I have suburban sensibilities, right? We've both spent a lot of years in the suburbs. You know, we drink a lot of suburban brands on the show as a result of that.
Right.
You know, we're not afraid to leave the city at all. But then, well, the suburb breweries outnumber the city breweries, right? Like, it's not just like this monolithic thing. There's a bunch of different stuff going on out there.
Right.
So you're talking Three Floyds in the suburbs, you're talking Microphone suburbs,
Well,
you're talking, right? You're talking Deep West, like where,
Like we
Pollyanna
talked
and those
about it,
guys,
like,
you know?
something like Bubble House.
Okay.
I went there. Their beers were fine.
Yeah.
It's not making me want to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing wrong with them. Were they so-so? I don't know. They were fine beers. I don't live in, I think that's Downers Grove.
I think so, yeah.
I don't need to go there again. I went there once.
Some people will tell you some of the better breweries are in the suburbs.
Sure,
you
yeah.
know?
We've gone to Moore many a times. We've gone to
Goldfinger.
Two Brothers, Pollyanna,
Yeah.
Penrose. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
great ones. So for him to say that,
It's kind of tone deaf, really, you know?
yeah, like we had some stuff from Urban Renewal that we liked, and we had stuff we didn't like. It was so-so, right?
I mean,
that's kind of.
And then, I think the way he came up with the name of the brewery because his lawyer kind of mentioned the name. And he's like, all right, fine, let's just name it that. Urban Renewal refers to the displacement of non-white people in urban areas, right? That's what you named your brewery, right? Not the best name,
Yeah.
right? And then
I don't want to attack him because he was a nice guy.
well, I mean, but I'm saying like let's not act like the location or the number of breweries was the primary issue.
Right.
Let's not act like that.
But then we forgot about like Bulldog closing.
Oh yeah, we forgot about Bulldog.
Leaving District Brew Yards, and not like their beer was better than so-so because it was brewed on the same like quality as everything at District Brew Yards.
Yep.
But the name of them just didn't make it anywhere. But if they would have been possibly in the suburbs, and you could bring your dog to the place,
They might have killed it.
they might have killed
If
it.
any brewery would have killed it in the suburbs, I would say Bulldog. Yeah, and I think they got the short end of the stick. Yeah, because their beer was good, but yeah, I don't think their image and their
Marketing.
and their ability to like identify with a consumer, a specific type of consumer.
Yeah.
that kind of did them in, but it wasn't because of the beer.
Right.
Because we've had their beer a few times, and their beer made a serious trajectory. Their beer was really good.
Right, but they would have killed it in the suburbs. Like, I don't want to pick up Bubble House, but I just think of that because it's like
This is the first thing that comes to mind.
they're not like no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
Like, unless you happen to have gone there, they're not popping up on the shelves. They're not.
Right, and then I think they were a graduate's the wrong word, but they were Skeleton Key. The brewery Skeleton Key.
Yeah.
They were kind of a hub of training for these other breweries. Skeleton Key, I think one key opens many doors, and it's like, hey, come here, learn about beer, and go on your own path.
Yeah.
And I think Bubble House is kind of a graduate, if you will, of that
Yeah.
place. So I think they are what they are. They're just a super small spot with a small footprint.
Right, and that it's local to the place, so some of these in the suburbs do benefit a lot because there's possibly not a lot, or like you become like, that's my brewery.
Yeah.
I don't want to drive another 20 minutes to the other brewery that has been there longer, or maybe or whatever. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this one's closer. I'm gonna support these people.
Whiskey Hills out in the burbs. We can go on and on about.
Different breweries that
Good.
just sort of like, yeah, Whiskey Hill. It's like you don't see that anywhere on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
So why? And they're killing it there.
They were runner up at FOA.
So yeah, he's not wrong that these so-so breweries do overly well in the suburbs, but I think he was sort of throwing shade at himself, being like, my beer wasn't good enough to make it in Chicago. And that's empirical. Wasn't
Making
good
it.
enough to make it in Chicago.
We've said this before. I mean, the Smiley Brothers thing, you know, they won at FOBAB this year for the same beer. 2 years in a row, they've got a FOBAB winning
Right.
Belgian quad. But even if you have good beer, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll make it.
Right, and their place in Evanston, it's busy, but yeah, it didn't translate to being in the city being busy.
Four storefronts, Brad. Four. I'm standing across the street from this joint. I'm like, yo, this is the biggest
So
fucking brewery.
it was an interesting read, and there was like some comments on Facebook from Suburbia guy.
Oh, yeah. Who's at Plank Road?
No, he's at Riverland.
Oh, he was at Plank Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he talked a little bit about it because he's like, there is a saturation, but there's not. There's plenty of room in the suburbs because there is. But some of these breweries just don't make it. You have to have more than being a good brewer and have good beer. You have to have good packaging. You have to have good marketing. You have to have all of this stuff now.
You know, I talk about this New Glarus podcast I listen to a lot all the time. But one of the quotes, because we don't really know those guys, you know, no one knows them really.
Yeah.
But one of the quotes he said in the latest episode was, if you don't have an audience for the beer you're making, you're just a glorified home brewer. And I'm like, that's interesting coming from a guy. Well, he's doing 200,000 barrels all in one state. He's speaking from a specific point of view now. But, you know, that's how some people view brewing. It's like, hey, you can make beer. That is fantastic. But you making beer is not the end of it. You know how to sell this beer, and you have people who want this beer. That's brewing. All of those things is brewing.
Yeah, and it might be like it's sort of like you might be a good cook at your house, but you can't go to a real kitchen and cook. So yeah,
It's interesting.
But do you think we are oversaturated in breweries?
I mean, we can, if we wanted to, we can go to a new brewery every week all year long.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with that. As a consumer, do I feel like there's too many breweries? No, I'm totally okay with the number of breweries there are.
I think the number of breweries is fine. I'm oversaturated when I go to the store, especially somewhere like Binny's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there are too many things for me to choose from.
Yeah, once you consider Chicago's in the middle of the country, and then you count all the regional brands are here, pretty much every brewery that can ship beer, you can probably find it in Chicago. Sure, it's just oversaturated from that standpoint. Right. Yeah, like what I mean, I the way I make my way through the noise is that I don't buy anything that's not local.
Right.
You know, like I'm only out looking for local stuff.
Because I went to Binny's and I did pick up some beer, and then I picked up some wine too. It's like I'm never gonna go try the New Zealand wine. I'm just not. Yeah. Why would I do that? So I'm not gonna try the beer from Nebraska.
And it could be great.
It could be great, but I'm just
not doing it.
It's too many choices.
So from that standpoint, to answer your question, yeah, if we count all the brands that are here because of where we're located, yeah, it's definitely oversaturated. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it just, if we just count the local breweries as oversaturated, the city and the burbs? I don't think so.
Right.
But
going to Binny's too, I'm not likely to pick up a new brewery like you went. We'll talk about it in a minute. You went to a new brewery. If I saw it on the shelf, I kind of want to go there first. I don't want to just roll my dice on Green Fern Brewing.
Right. I think we're at a point.
Let me see what these cans are. Oh,
yeah. We're at a point where we can afford to have experiences like that, right? We don't have to, we can enjoy it on our terms because there's so many different ways to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig that. If my only way to try them was to go to the store, it wouldn't be as fun. Yeah.
I think, you'd burn out much quicker.
Yeah. I don't want to commit to fucking 6 of these. Yeah. We've said that before too. We got commitment issues with the booze, man.
The 6 cold IPAs from Green Fern Brewery. I got 5 more.
I got 5 more to go.
I gotta take to people's houses and leave.
Fuck, I'm gonna fuck around and drink one on the way downtown. Yeah.
But interesting, yeah. Sorry to hear about Tribes.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Because Tribes. Well, They were right by World Music Theater. So one weekend, Tribes had a festival with like 30 breweries, and Hall & Oates was playing. Hall & Oates and Cheryl Jones and the Dap King. So I just stayed all weekend over there. Tribes, their brewmaster used to work at David from Haymarket. He left to go be the brewmaster at Tribes.
Yeah.
And then I think he left Tribes altogether, and then they recruited one of the guys from Rev who used to work at Argus.
Okay.
So they got some Chicago roots with as far as the head brewers
And
out there
David
go.
went to Salmo. I don't know if he's...
That was it. David went to Solemn Oath, and they had to replace him.
I don't know if he's still there. I haven't seen him in a while. Didn't what's his name? He worked at Brickstone.
Alice Levingood?
Was he at Tribes ever?
Maybe. I know he was at Brickstone and Temperance, and he bounced around. Let's sad to see them go, man. Cheers to them. They're before they became a brewery, when it was just Tribes Ale House, just a tap room, one of the best tap rooms you'll ever go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a Tinley Park problem? Like that's,
I'd like to hear more about that, right? Because
Hailstorm would have closed if Will Turner.
Oh, because the other guy, Steve Miller, got outed for some sexual shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's two things, right? Like the reason Beta Brow closed is because the space they were renting, they agreed to pay like double the amount after year 3.
Okay.
And their assumption was, hey, we'll be making enough money to cover this. And it didn't work out that way. They had to close. So some of this just depends on what's your arrangement with the place you're renting if you didn't buy it. And then also, like, what's your burn rate? How much cash do you got before this shit's got to make a profit?
Yeah.
And then, then you might have to get out after a few years,
And that's I think the Smiley Brothers and what Hopcat, like, this didn't work. People aren't coming here.
Yeah, people aren't coming.
Expensive area.
It's expensive area. This shit happened right during the pandemic. It's like, well, man, we got a lot on the line here, and we're not making enough money to justify why we're still here. Let's just pack up our shit and go back to Evanston. Fuck it. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, but then I teased this Green Fern Brewing that opened. No, Nick went to a new brewery, not Green Fern.
I could use a fern. I'm in the bathroom. In the shit.
This one's downtown, right?
Yeah, man, in the Loop. Chicago's Downtown Brewery is what they're calling themselves. Industry Ales.
Industry Ales.
Brad. Let's see. Industry Ales is put together by 3 guys who worked in hospitality. I think they worked at a few restaurants and a few bars, all in the Loop. And they just decided, hey, let's break away and do our own thing. Right? So these are they're not open yet. The space isn't open yet. It's going to be by Miller's Pub down in the Loop. So I would say like Wabash and Jackson-ish. Okay. Right? It's not open until spring, but they had a pop-up event at the Virgin Hotels, which is basically off Wacker. Mm-hmm. So if you're at, I don't know. Yeah, if you're at like Wacker in Michigan, it's like basically right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is really not far from Rock Bottom.
Yeah, it's just like a few blocks south of Rock Bottom, basically. Yeah. So they had 3 beers at this bar at a hotel. Let's see. Lost Sailor, Sour Huckleberry Seltzer, and the Old Fashioned Ale. Okay. Yeah. So these are all the Lost Sailor is a dark and stormy inspired ale. So I think dark and stormy is like ginger beer and rum cocktail. Okay. And then we all know what an old fashioned is. And then the Sour Huckleberry was just a seltzer where they actually put like huckleberries in it.
How were they?
I'll be your huckleberry.
Hillsbury Farm?
No. Hickory Hills. And then it was really, really rich color. Really nice, bright red color. Oh, cool. So I think he said he added something else to it just to make the color higher, like another fruit, maybe like a beet or something. Oh yeah, like, beet. Yeah, get it nice and bright. My favorite one was the one. These beers were fine. My favorite one was the beer that they weren't selling; they were allowing people to just sample it. It was a Rausch beer. Oh, okay. So it was a Rausch beer that was made for barbecue. So it was a caramelized onion smoke beer. Okay. Yeah, bizarre as fuck. It kind of smelled like Boston baked beans on the nose. When you drank it, it just all kind of bizarrely worked. And he was like, hey, do you want to try anything else again? I'm like, give me that weird ass fucking barbecue beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
That one sounds, yes, yeah, that one sounds more interesting. And I feel like if you're a new brewery, I understand there's lots of IPAs, there's lots of lagers. So you're trying to like stand out,
Right.
but also people like IPAs and lagers.
Right. That's why there's a top category every year. Right.
I understand the problem.
Yeah.
But
So, I was trying to get some information out of these guys. I think there's 3 co-founders, and one of the co-founders is the brewer.
yeah.
So the brewer comes over. I took a picture of his card. We don't know his name anyway, but I'm like, well, what's going on here? What kind of system are you brewing on? He's like, well, we got a 10-barrel system, and our goal is to really have a fresh local beer in all these hotels and in all these bars in the Loop. Because when you're downtown for a visit, there's not, if you take a closer look at downtown, all the heat in downtown is either West Loop or River North, right?
Right.
But if you're talking the Loop proper, like within walking distance of like the Bean and shit like that, there ain't really not a lot going on locally, right? There's a bunch of chains, just Wendy's, American Dog, fucking, all this kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to fill that void. McDonald's, shit like that, right? But he said, I'm like, he's like, I've been brewing for over 10 years, and we finally got together, and we've had this idea this whole time, but we never had funding. Now we have funding. Now it's go time. And he's like, I've brewed this beer. He brewed the old ale with, he brewed it at Around the Bend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then he brewed the Dark and Stormy, I believe, at Crushed by Giants. So he had experience on these other brew houses, and then that's where he gathered information and made his own play for his own brewery.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I feel like that's a really smart way to be like, we're just going to be the Chicago brewery that tourists drink. So
right.
No one
Right.
in Chicago, it's almost like a brewery someone like Finch, who just wasn't selling their beer in Chicago, but people outside of Chicago drink. And was like, hey, I have a beer from Chicago. I was like, oh, I guess, but we don't drink that here.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were one of the first breweries in places like Tennessee,
Yeah.
Kentucky. Finch was there, Atlanta, Eric Inda was a guy's name. I told you I wouldn't know his name, but he's the head brewer. It was interesting. It was interesting to hear his story and hear about, because, we were saying in the pre-show, like, Columbia College is down there, Harold Washington Library. I went to DePaul. A lot of DePaul tech classes are in the Loop.
Yeah.
So, there's an audience. It's down there by Miller's Pub, if anybody's familiar. But, there's room for growth as far as, like, just having a cool local presence.
Right, like we had district or Vice District, that's on the just south.
So, like, South Loop, Motor Road. No, South Loop, yeah.
So we do need some other downtown options, but there's Rock Bottom, Crushed by Giants, that no one really talks about.
Yeah.
But they make beer. I still haven't been there.
Yeah.
There's Adam Street that no one really talks about, but they pop up.
Yeah, they were the artist formerly known as Berghoff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Haymarket is really just not that far either.
Right. So, if you take a closer look at the Loop, right? So, like we talked about, like the places you just named, the Loop is where Berghoff is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But those other breweries, Rock Bottom that's River North, right? And then so is Crushed by Giants is like Streeterville.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, from a distance, sure, it's all downtown, it's all 312. Yeah. But if you're downtown, it's like the Loop is like this smaller section that if you just look at that section, it's underserved.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm not a buyer for any of these places, but what would be the incentive for them to have if you're a place like Purple Pig?
Right.
People tourists go there. Most people in Chicago think about, they know it.
Yeah.
They've been once.
The Hotel Intercontinental.
But what's
Four Seasons?
Why would Purple Pig have that over a half-acre beer?
Yeah.
That they have relationships with.
Yeah. It's gonna be a tough play because I wonder how many. There's a lot of good local options that are part of a distribution network already. Mm-hmm. That like you just said, whether it's Off Color or Half Acre or Rev,
they're like staples of the city.
Yeah.
And kind of.
Are you gonna take a chance and piss off your distro by having one of these taps dedicated to industry ales, it's going to be a tough play. Unless they're banking on the relationships they've made over the time. And I think that has to be part of it.
Yeah.
If I was, and I'm not a banker or a brewer, but I would assume that that's in their business plan, right? It's like, well, how are you going to sell this beer? Like, oh, well, we have these relationships with these number of bars or this hotel group or this restaurant group, and we're going to have our beers on there.
Right.
Like, I would assume that's part of it.
Like, yeah, I don't know what in some of these restaurant bars in the hotels, what their beer selection looks like.
Exactly. Like, this place was at the Virgin Hotel, right? And the Virgin Hotel, I thought it was at the rooftop bar, because when you walk in and talk to concierge, he's like, the bar's on the roof.
Yeah.
But then there's another bar on the first floor. Oh, anyway, I hadn't been in the Virgin Hotel at all for anything. And I imagine there's...
Well, why would you, right?
There's like 50 hotels downtown that all have a bar on the roof and on the ground level.
That no one in Chicago is going
You
to.
wouldn't. Why would you go?
Yeah.
Unless there's a party, yeah. So, shit, from that standpoint, Palmer House, Hilton, or, all these fucking places, I'm sure.
It's an interesting idea that also I think could work, and people in Chicago never drink this beer.
Yeah.
And that's why I think will blow people's mind.
It'll be funny. It'll be funny because they'll probably sell all their beer and it'll just be downtown. And unless you're going down there for, like, my kid lives downtown. So, but if my kid wasn't downtown, I would never go down there.
Right.
Like, and I think most people
Like,
think
I'm
that.
going to get this industry. It's in Chicago?
Like, huh? One more thing. He was saying, because they're food beers and I wouldn't say they're necessarily approachable beers, right? But he's like, but you know what else is missing down there is like just a regular Chicago hot dog. Like within walking distance of their pub, there's no regular Chicago hot dog. So having a lager and a hot dog, just straight up, easy, accessible. Like they've got two moves as far as the type of person they want to approach.
Right.
They want to have this. They want to have just your regular beer and a hot dog guy, and then they want to have the person who's interested in an elevated experience that might want some different ingredients. They're looking to cater to both of those, he says. So it's interesting. It's ambitious. So I'm very curious to see where this goes for them.
Right. And then you wonder, the hot dog thing is interesting, but then you wonder, why isn't there? Does it not actually work? Like people want a Chicago dog, but then like, you like get it, and it's like, I don't know, what, $3 or whatever, and you're like, okay, I had that thing. It couldn't have cost them that much to make, but the volume can't be that high to make enough.
Yeah, we'll see. He says 2 floors in the Loop, 10-barrel system. They 11,000 barrels a year, I think they're projecting to make. So
that seems ambitious.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm very curious. If there's a launch party, I'll go. I'll go to a launch party.
When are they supposed to?
I think he said March, just like Black Lung. Yeah, February, March.
Hold on, March, and there's no way. If I say fall,
Yeah, March. So that gives you what, 3 months?
then it would have to be done.
Yeah, maybe they're just waiting on permits and shit.
Right. Then why wasn't the party there?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why wasn't the party there? Because the party was at this hotel, and it's at the hotel all month. Every Friday, Saturday, all of December is where this
no
party.
way this is March.
Yeah, we'll see. Who else said, shit, how long did Hot Butcher say? Until they opened, it was like a half a year.
Right.
Long-ass time. And so.
Interesting. All right. Industry ale?
Industry ales.
Okay.
Industry ales. Downtown Chicago's beer.
Nice. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So, it was a good learning experience. Hung out there on a Saturday night. The Miss Ricky's is the spot in the hotel. That's the name of the restaurant.
Okay.
So, it's not open on weekends. All Miss Ricky's does is pop-ups on Friday and Saturday. They're not open. They're only open during the week. So, this is, and they're usually vegan focused. So, they open up just for these guys.
Who are going to have a Chicago hot dog and have a barbecue beer?
Yeah. 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 I wonder, but they must know folks at the hotel.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool. All right. The only other thing we want to talk about before we get out of here, which by the time you listen to this has already happened, Big Hugs pop-up thing with tasty beers.
The Big Hugs Bash, man.
Nick heard a rumor that there's going to be some Bourbon County there.
Yeah, there's going to be prop on draft at the Big Hugs Bash.
Prop 2022, right?
The Jungle Bird prop.
Because I was at Whirly Ball and they had Prop 2018.
Which was like fucking, I don't even know.
But you had to buy a bottle. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a bottle Prop at Whirly Ball.
That'll be a no,
die.
sir. Half Acre Holiday Market. So they're going to have 20 local artists and makers there for Saturday and Sunday, December 10th and 11th. Records, comics, and much more. It can't be a party without more. You have to have
Comics as in like comic books?
Yeah.
Or comics like stand-up comics?
no. Fine art, jewelry, household goods, records, comics, and much, much more.
So yard sale.
It's going to be a holiday market, Brad. Holiday market, God damn it. DJs, karaoke, photo booth. They got a barley wine, man. They got a barrel-aged barley wine called World of Bog.
Oh, yeah. I saw the can.
Yeah.
They put a picture on their Instagram.
Yeah, it's a trippy can. They said, I don't know if you remember the cowboy. There was a guy there that they called a cowboy, and they had a cowboy going home party at for this guy. It was a going away party. Half Acre
They had
Tap.
a cowboy, they had a mayor, they had a president.
Right. The cowboy left. I forget his name, but he had a going away party at Beer Temple, and the party was a Half Acre Tap takeover of all the cowboys' favorite beers. Okay. Oh, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this beer was aged in Balcones malt whiskey barrels. Balcones is a Texas distillery.
Oh.
And this was the cowboy's last project before he left a year ago.
Oh.
So it just wasn't ready until now. But
He worked at Half Acre.
it was was a brewer at Half Acre.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a cowboy that was a brewer at Half Acre. I should have just led with that. Sorry.
I thought it was a person who was like, I'm the cowboy. I come here all the time.
I'm the cowboy.
And they're like, okay, we like you.
Yeah. He's like, okay, you're the cowboy. Yeah. So, Half Acre, man. I like Half Acre. I was drinking Half Acre tonight. I was at the fucking Will's Northwoods Inn Half Acre takeover.
Oh, nice.
They do a tap takeover every year at a Wisconsin lodge in the middle of fucking Lakeview.
Okay. Neat.
Super fucking weird. I'm like, and the first thing I asked the guys, I'm like, oh, why are you here? Right? Like, what is the deal with this place?
Nick, that's the question we all ask. Why are we here?
They were like, yo, this was one of our first accounts. And even in the dark ages of Half Acre, when most of the beer they sold was Daisy Cutter and they were running out and they had to pull out of the suburbs and they didn't have any Daisy Cutter, they made sure to keep it on at this place.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so this is one of their longest running accounts, and they just want to celebrate that by having a tap takeover every time Big Hugs comes out. So they've done it 7 years in a row.
And this wasn't new Big Hugs. This was old Big Hugs.
This was 2019 Big Hugs.
Okay.
Yeah, which apparently is the last time it was barrel aged, apparently. Yeah, so it was a tap takeover with some beers that saw release in cans only at Half Acre and never made it to on draft at any location. Yeah.
Okay.
So you know how Half Acre is with these fucking names of these beers, man.
Sure.
Fucking whack job, man. For example, because I'm like, what's this shit called? Before Land Shook and Sickle Through Sable.
Okay.
Right, and these are all just different variants of beers. Before Land Shook was my favorite beer. It was a vanilla, marshmallow, and sea salt barrel-aged stout. That was pretty good. Sickle Through Sable was a barrel-aged stout with cacao nibs.
Okay.
But they had like 10 beers total. It was a good hang. It was basically, Half Acre takeover in Wisconsin Northwoods bar.
Okay. So that sounds fun. But all right, Big Hugs this weekend. I think I gotta go to that.
Yeah, I still want some fresh hugs.
Yeah, and then we'll probably drink that next week and talk about it.
Yeah,
Cool. I think that's gonna do it then for this episode.
right on.
Nick, where can people find you? Get in touch when we're not here.
Hey man, I'm on Twitter, man, at Nicosio.
I'm on Twitter at BRAD, Chicago Beer Pass, Twitter, Instagram, website chicagobeerpass.com. Episodes get posted there. And we'll be back soon. Take care.
Cheers.